Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our latest Shedcast. I want to introduce a man who needs very little introduction, to be fair. The word legend is rarely used or is overused, but when it comes to Pat Jennings, I think it's very bang on. Pat, you're very welcome to the Shed this afternoon.
Thanks very much, Frank. Pleasure. Thank you.
We've just opened the turnstiles. Sorry. We've just opened the turnstiles, so people are piling into the Shedcast as we speak. And we're just going to have a chat, and thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. As I was saying to you, there's no fear that any of the listeners and watchers today, you know, are too young to remember anything. They remember every little detail, and some of the questions they've asked are great fun, and we want to have just a bit of fun and a chat about you, about your life, about football. And but first of all, how are you? How have you been? It's been a hell of a year. How are you?
Yeah, can't believe this lockdown where the time's gone. You know, just I've had a lot of phone-ins and a lot of Zooms from football people around the world, from Tottenham Hotspur as well. You know, so that's kept me going. And obviously, I only live 3 or 4 minutes from the golf club here, so whenever they have been open, I've been playing golf every other day. Hasn't improved my golf, but at least it's got me out of the house. I still go into Tottenham every day, or a couple of times a week. I work with the academy boys at Spurs, so that passes a bit of time as well.
Great.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, and that would be that's your exercise again around the golf.
Yeah. I mean, we used to have invites for whenever everything was normal. Would have 2 and 3 invites a week all over the country here to play charity golf, all good causes as well.
Yeah.
So it was just getting the days to fit them in those weeks, you know. And the same with Ireland. I've been over to Ireland 5-6 times a year to playing golf down south for the late great Cecil Whelan in the Link Society. So they were great times.
Excellent. And we're going to talk about golf and a famous golf partner in a while. I'm going to start though, Pat, your playing career started with the local Shamrock Rovers side at age 11 in Newry. And what do you remember about the time you thought this is a career for life? This is what? When were you bitten?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I never dreamt about being a professional footballer at that stage. And Catholic schools, we went to Catholic schools and we had to play the Gaelic game. So I would have played out at Gaelic, played midfield, and didn't realise how beneficial that was going to be to me down the line whenever I started playing serious soccer. But this street league started up where we adopted, all around the town, adopted the names of famous clubs. We were Shamrock Rovers, and there was the Celtic and the Arsenal and so on. And it was in the meadow just on the edge of the town. And I mean, it would have been some nights, the rivalry was unbelievable in these little games. And some nights we would have had 800 or 900 people, maybe 1,000 people at the matches, just on the edge of the town. So you can imagine there wasn't much happening in our town in those days. But that's where it started for me in an under-19 league as a goalkeeper. I had to get a little run in to touch the crossbar. But that was where it started for me. And unfortunately, because there was a lack of soccer facilities in the town, the league only ran for 1 year. So the rest of my time then I spent playing Gaelic football. My father took brother and I to all the Gaelic games and all the soccer matches up and down, international matches, Windsor Park, boxing matches. He was a real fanatic for sports, so that's where we got the sport thing from.
Fantastic.
So, I left school at 15 and went to work. In those days, I mean, unless you had an education, you just took any sort of a job to get a few bob. And I went to work in one of the linen factories in Newry. And then, unfortunately, it closed after 10 months. And I was out of work for a couple of weeks. And my dad was working on a timber gang, just clearing a mountain just outside Newry. And he got me a job in the timber gang. So I was there, I think, about 9 or 10 months, and my brother, who played in the team, brother Brian, he was playing for the local, he played in the Shamrocks team as well as a winger, and was playing for the local Newry United team. And he came in one night and he said, fella, the goalkeeper's going to England to look for work. Why don't you come down? This was Thursday night. Why don't you come down and do a bit of training? You might get a game. So me coming off the mountain on a night, the last thing I want to do, finish up, go training and finish up in a cold shower at the end of the night. So I said, you must be joking. But 2 weeks later, he was back. The goalkeeper's gone to England. And I went down with him on the Thursday night, played for the team on the Saturday, kept a clean sheet. And at the end of the season, about 3 months later, we'd won the Irish Junior Cup, something like 300 teams playing in that. So that was me. I went into the Newry Town team the next year. And I was playing about 3 or 4 months, and the chairman came to me one night, Sam McCulloch, he said, Pat, I'm putting your name forward for selection for the Irish youth team. I said, what does that mean? This was me at 17. If you get picked, there's a European youth tournament coming up in England. And if you get picked, you'll be joining the Northern Ireland team. So me, I'd never been away from home. I wasn't jumping up and down about the prospects. And it was the year of the big snow in Ireland. One or two might remember that. The trials had to be cancelled because of bad weather. So I'm picked to play for Northern Ireland. I was playing for Newry Town at the time. And we still had to go down south to play to the south to see who was going through to represent Ireland in this European youth tournament. So we qualified, we beat the south over the couple of games. So I literally came off the mountain, went across to England and played in this European youth tournament and finished up playing at the world famous Wembley after 10 days. So, I mean, if you can imagine what a thrill that was, you know, unless you played for your country or played in an FA Cup final, nobody ever got to play at the world famous Wembley. So here was me off the mountain, and 10 days later I'm playing at Wembley Stadium. Just unbelievable start. So I was literally back to work one day. I go training at Newry again that night. And the chairman's there again, Pat, there's 1 or 2 teams in for you. One of the teams was Watford, and the other was Jimmy Hill from Coventry. So the deal was done like between the 2 chairmen, and I finished up joining Watford, which was, they were a 3rd division team, struggling at the time. I joined. They had 4 games to go at the end of the season. I didn't play the first 2 games because they were still in danger of being relegated. So they got themselves out of relegation bother, and then I played the last 2 matches and went all the way through the next year, every match, and we missed promotion from the 3rd to the 2nd division by a point. So I had a fantastic, the club had a great year. So that was me then. And unbelievably, I mean, I went from my wages, believe it or not, I was earning £4 a week on the mountain, and all of a sudden now my first wages at Watford were £23 a week. Another £2 if I made the first team, plus bonuses. I thought I'd won the pools. Couldn't believe getting that sort of money to play football.
Yeah.
I would have played nothing, but that was the way it was with me anyway.
Yeah.
And then, of course, after my first year at Watford, I'm at home in Ireland. I get a phone call from the manager, Bill McGarry. By the way, he wants me back to do extra training, and this was in the close season. So he booked me on the flight into Heathrow, picks me up. He said, "Do you know why you're here, son?" I said, "Back to do some extra training." He said, "No, not really." He said, "Mr. Bill Nicholson's waiting for you at Vicarage Road." That was Watford, where the Watford ground was. So that was me then signing for Tottenham eventually. I actually come back to Ireland that day and didn't sign. I wanted to talk over wages and that. So, but they came back within a couple of weeks, and both managers come to Belfast, and I finished up signing then there for Tottenham. So that was it.
Fantastic. Martin Rogers asked me, do you think Irish-born goalkeepers have an advantage when it comes to kickouts and just playing the ball from hand? Do you think that was an advantage?
Well, for me, without a doubt, I would think not so much kicking out kickouts, but more or less handling crosses and that coming into the box. When in the Gaelic game, as I said earlier, I played midfield, where everybody's going with their hands and you're taking all the knocks as well. So, I mean, it's much easier than whenever people are trying to head the ball around you in soccer, and you can use your hands. You're 3 foot above people, basically. Like. So, confidence-wise, it's just it's a great start if you've been brought up to the Gaelic game as I was.
Yeah. Graham Curtis from Stonehouse Men's Shed in South Lanarkshire, and a Spurs supporter since the 1950s. He said, does Pat think it would be possible today for a goalkeeper to score from his own penalty area, as you did in 1967 against Man United in the Charity Shield game?
I think it'd be much easier today. Whenever you look at the balls are much lighter. So it wouldn't be a great problem to kick the ball the full length of the field, you know.
Yeah.
But the balls in my day, 67, whenever I scored that goal, the balls were much heavier. And it was a free kick just outside our box, and Dave Mackay was in it on his run up to take it. I said, "Give it to me, Dave, I'll knock it up." And I was trying to hit our centre forward, Alan Gilzine. So Mackay gave it back to me. I hit it as hard as I could, thinking I was going to hit Gilly. It's missed Gilly, and Alex Stepney, the Man United goalkeeper, he's come out of the centre half expecting to pick up a miscontrolled ball that's travelled the length of the field. And both centre half and our Gilly, they have missed the bounce. And now poor old Alex in no man's land. And the next bounce is in the back of the net. And everybody, including me, thinks, what does he give? Never seen it before. Even Kenneth Wilson home, it took him a half a minute to work out that Pat Jennings had scored. So that was it. And I have to tell you, Mackay claimed an assist for giving me the ball back. So, it's been done once or twice since, so it's possible. But as you said, it'd be much easier to do it nowadays, you know. And especially the way the goalkeeper's playing now, 18, 20 yards outside the box. So I would think it'd be much easier now,
Yeah. So that was the start of 13 glorious years in Spurs, wasn't it? FA Cup in 67, 2 League Cups, UEFA Cup, 591 appearances for the club.
I would think probably over 600 appearances in all competitions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in all competitions. Sorry, that's league. Yeah.
And I was lucky enough as well, Frank, to be Football of the Year, Football Writers Player of the Year 73, and PFA Player of the Year 76. And I think at the moment I'm the only goalkeeper to have achieved that.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Councillor Tom Fortune from Wicklow asks the question, what was the best game for Spurs? What was the most memorable game in that period that you played?
Probably, I mean, every game, I mean, being a goalkeeper is so important because you got to keep clean sheets, and the minute you turn professional, then the game is totally different from you enjoying it as an amateur. But probably without a doubt, my first FA Cup final against Chelsea. I mean, that was everybody's dream. It was a glamour competition in those days, the FA Cup final. It was all went out live all around the world on television. So, I mean, there was some pressure on in those games because, unfortunately, in those days as well, they showed all the previous FA Cup matches. So if you made a mistake in a match like that, you were going to be seeing them for the rest of your days. So the pressure was on matches like that. So it was always nice to get that first FA Cup medal under your belt and your first win, which it was for me in those years. Brilliant.
They really were productions at the time. I remember the FA Cup final day, and the coverage would it would start for what the players had for breakfast and would go all the way through the day and up to the coaches arriving at the stadium. They really were huge days. It was a really glamour tournament back then. So it must have been a lot of pressure.
Yeah, massive, especially being a goalkeeper. You were watching the thousands of fans making their way into Wembley, and you were just hoping that you weren't going to be the one that made a mistake and cost them the game. But thankfully, that didn't happen. So
it certainly didn't. It certainly didn't. A question from Pat Towie from Ballahadereen Men's Shed. And maybe it speaks to the professionalism, but fairly much in those days, club policy was you played through an awful lot compared to probably nowadays when players might be a bit more minded. Did you come across that playing through injury? Was that a pressure at the time? Did you?
No, I was lucky because I never touched wood. I never had a lot of injuries. So, but there was lots of players. There was always one or two players in your team that maybe get an injection on Thursday or Friday to get them through the Saturday match. Yeah. So there was lots of times that were players. I mean, you were never possibly 100% every time you went out, but that was the way it was in those days. Like now with the substitution, where you can sub 3, 4, 5 players, obviously that problem doesn't arise. Yeah.
And Pat just adds that his cousin is Joe Corrigan, ex-Man City goalie.
Oh yeah, Joe, what a great goalkeeper! Yeah, brilliant.
And then there was a time, unfortunately, the Spurs years came to an end too suddenly for a lot of Spurs fans, for a lot of people. And that must have been a strange time, and the decisions you had to make about your career at that time.
Yeah, for me, I mean, without a doubt, it was the worst day of my life in football. Whenever Keith Birkinshaw, I mean, it was incredible the way it happened. I mean, I was injured. I missed 21 games, I think, the year we got relegated. And I was back playing the last month of the season, but by that time we had gone. And I like to think, like, I'm back, had I played in 10 or 12 of the matches, I would have got Spurs enough points to stay up, but something we'll never know. But as I say, I was back fit that last month of the season, and I'm reading in the papers, the Sunday papers, that I may be available for transfer. So I couldn't believe it. Like the year before, as I said, I was Footballer of the Year, 76, PFA Player of the Year. And now the next year, there's talk about me leaving or being available for transfer. So I can remember we're in Norway, I think, end of season tour. And on the way back, I said to Keith Birkinshaw, because I always went to Ireland with a family right through the Troubles. As soon as the last match was over, the car was loaded up to Liverpool or Holyhead and across to Dublin or Belfast. And that was us, the family, right the way through the Troubles. We spent our summers in Ireland and with the families and that. So I thought, I don't want to be going back to Ireland for 6 or 7 weeks and wondering what I'm coming back to. So I thought, well, I'll ask Keith Birkinshaw, what's this in the paper that I'm reading? So the next thing he said to me, well, he said, actually, Bobby Robson was in for you from Ipswich, manager. He was in for you at Easter. But he said it was worth more than what his job was worth at that time to let me go. So I knew from that minute on that the writing was on the wall. He was obviously thinking about it. Like, so you can imagine what sort of the 6 or 7 weeks I had in Ireland, thinking, where am I going to be next year? Am I going to be up the country, down the country, kids out of school, into different schools, all that sort of problems, like that footballers every week. But I didn't think it was happening to me, but that was the way it was. So anyway, I came back into pre-season, played in all the pre-season games, and I thought, well, my contract was up in July. I thought, well, they're going to offer me a new contract. So I went into training one morning, and out on the pitch, all of a sudden, Keith Birkinshaw comes across to me. Pat, can I have a word? And I thought, he wants to talk tactics. When you pick the ball up, give it there, kick it there, whatever. So the next thing he says to me, right, he says, we've decided that you can go. I don't want to, we're going to Sweden the next day, last week of pre-season training. He said, I don't want to take you to Sweden. You'll be an embarrassment to the other goalkeeper. So if you can imagine what I said to that, do you want me to apologise for being a good player all these years?
Yeah.
So funny, Jerry Armstrong, he was kicking the ball back and forward to me at that time. And I mean, as I said, I couldn't believe it. Like, so next thing he says, Bobby Robson's ringing you tonight at 6 o'clock. I'm ringing you at 6:30. I want to know where you're going before I go to Sweden tomorrow. So I said, right, Keith, you want me to make up my mind where I'm going in a half an hour to suit you? So that was the way I left him. And I said, by the way, what sort of money are you asking for me? He said, what do you think you're worth? So I said, well, I know what I'm worth, but I don't think Tottenham should be getting it at this stage. Usually players that cost 100,000, 80, 90,000, they're done 7, 8, 9, 10 years at the club, they were given free transfers. And I'm bought for 27,000, and now I'm being sold after 13 years and 600 games. So that was what I left him like. Anyway, Bobby Robson rang me in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. I'd done the deal to go to Ipswich literally in 5 minutes with him. He was going to let me basically live in the area where I live now and travel 2 or 3 days a week to training plus match days to Ipswich. So Paddy said, you can take it, the deal's done. We're playing in Holland tonight. The directors are all there. Take it, the deal's done. So unfortunately, or fortunately for me, one of the Ipswich players broke the leg in the match that night in Holland, and Bobby Robson rang me back to say whatever money he was spending on me, he then had to buy an outfield player. So the deal to Ipswich was off. So it was out then during that afternoon, the hotline, that I was available for transfer. So I had Man United ring me up, would have come to Man U for 2 years, and Aston Villa, who won the European Cup the next year, they were in touch with me as well, would have signed for Aston Villa. So there was no shortage of takers, you know.
Yeah.
But I went to the ground the next day anyway to say cheerio to the players, because they were off to Sweden, and I knew whenever they came back after a week, I wouldn't be there. So I'm through our car park at White Hart Lane with all the players as they were coming in and getting on the coach. Thanks for all the good times, lads. And all of a sudden, the directors come up from the offices down the bottom. Every one of them walked past me, totally blanked me. So I said, from that minute, what am I doing? Got up the country, down the country, kids out of school, into different schools, different house. If that's the thanks you get for 13 years service. So there was only one place I was going after that, and that was joining the London Irish over the road. Gary Neal and all, you know, the Irish lads that have played with Sammy Nelson, Pat Rice, David O'Leary, you know, Frank, Liam, yeah, just brilliant. I mean, it was home really, you know, just same colour shirt but a different outfit shirt. That was it. And
the family got to stay where everything did.
Basically, the training ground was only 20 minutes up the road from where we lived. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
And was it unusual at the time to be that involved in your own affairs? Like you hear nowadays about it's the man and the agents in the middle that are making decisions and making money, but you were doing this stuff with your own sleeves rolled up, talking about your own career.
Yeah, you didn't have agents in those days, you know. But even the day I went across to sign for Arsenal, the assistant secretary, he come with me. And I went out and done the medical with Fred Street, the physio at Arsenal. And he took us out for a meal, done the medical. And I'm back in a room at White Hart, at Highbury. The Fred Street's gone out to get the forms. And the assistant secretary, our Tottenham assistant secretary, said, "Pat, are you sure you want to be transferred?" I said, "Peter, what are you talking about?" I said, "I'm being sold." He said, "Hold on." He said, "I need to make a phone call." So he literally went out, made a phone call, come back after 2-3 minutes. He said, "I've told the chairman and the manager that you're about to sign for Arsenal." And they just said, "Tell Pat to carry on." That was it. So and I think they finished up, got 45,000-50,000 from it. That was the deal at the time, 45,000-50,000. And I only learned Bill Nicholson's book there over the last couple of months. And I read in the book that there was new legislation coming out. If you'd spent 5-6 years previously at your club, the next year, at my age, you could have gone on a free transfer. So now I'm thinking that was the reason I was sold, because they could get 50,000 from me that they couldn't have got the next year.
And you would have got it the next year or whatever. But those Arsenal times.
I had unbelievable times at Arsenal, 330 games and four cup finals in the first 3-4 years. And I mean, they were just, an unbelievable club. I mean, Tottenham have spent on the coaching staff. As a player, I went back to Tottenham before leading up to the 86 World Cup. I went back for a year to Tottenham because there was new managers and new directors come in. So I went back from the last year, and I've been on the coaching staff at Tottenham from 1993, went back with Ozzy. So I'm over 41, 42 years now as employed at Tottenham on the coaching staff and as a player. So there's no place where my loyalties lie. But having said that, I mean, wherever I go, I've never got a bad word to say about Arsenal. They were absolutely brilliant to me.
That's one question that occurs to me. A lot of men today are listening, and you know, our organisation is they're members of Sheds, you know, and Sheds by their nature are different. Are football clubs, do they have their own personalities in the sense, is it dictated by the manager, or is there certain things that's a Liverpool thing, that's a Arsenal thing, that's a...
Yeah, different clubs. I mean, once they come in, the managers change, even the way they want to play on that, you know.
Yeah.
And some clubs, the lesser clubs, maybe are clubs that develop younger players and then sell them all on, you know.
Yeah.
They or to keep the big boys. That's the way it's been. Like down through the years, you get clubs that are just that bring on new players and sell them on, and that's what keeps them going. So they have no ambitions maybe just to survive. But I mean, you look at that's the way a lot of them are, even in those days, you know, even in this day and age. Yep.
So we're going to talk, if you don't mind, about the international side then, because was it 119 caps over 22 years for Northern Ireland?
Yeah, 119, 22, 23 years. Yep.
Some fantastic.
And I think, Frank, I've played in 118 of those matches. You go on for 4 minutes, you get a cap, you know.
Of course.
Is 118, and I think I was sub before. I got picked up an injury in '85 before the World Cup. We just qualified for the, no, that was the '82 World Cup. I just qualified and then picked up an injury at Arsenal. And I was in big doubt. I kept going out. Rick McGryan and me, a doctor, every 6-7 weeks, kept going out and breaking down again. And literally got through to May. And I played an international Northern Ireland down in Wales. And whenever I come in at half time, Billy Bingham, the manager, said to me, "Pat, that'll do you. You've got a month now to get fit for the World Cup in Spain." Yeah. So that was one of the half matches that I played out of the 119. I think there was only one of them, or I only played half a game. I don't know what that was. Well, I got replaced. I got injured. Yeah. But as I said, you know, it's no fault of the player, Stephen. He's just overtaken my record now. Great little player, but he doesn't make the rules. So, you know, that's the way it is at the minute. Yeah. Even outfield, like they're walking out now whenever the board goes up to say there's 2 or 3 minutes injury time. And players are walking on, and that's an appearance for them. So right. It's different times. I mean, yeah, that's the game, is it? Yeah. At
the '82 World Cup, that you beat the host Spain. There were many World Cup highlights for such a small country to get those international highlights. That was an awful lot of that was down to yourself. It was also down to your roommate and who debuted at the same time as you.
Yeah, that was well. I mean, going back with both George and I started the international team way back 1964. So every 3-4 years, whenever the World Cups come up qualifying, we had been trying to qualify for a World Cup to do what the 1958 Northern Ireland team had done. Qualify, not only qualified, got the last 16 as well. So we were trying to qualify, and you can imagine whenever it came around that '82, I thought that it passed me by. I was 36 at that time, coming up 36. So I thought I was never going to make it. So you can imagine the thrill whenever we did eventually qualify for the World Cup. Just unbelievable. And then talking about that injury I had, I was dreading. I thought, I'm not going to make the World Cup. But thankfully I did. I played in the Spain match, and we played first game against Yugoslavia, through 0-0 with them. They were a great team at the time. The press then had written our second game was Honduras, and the press had written them off. And looking back, they probably give us our toughest game. And then that took us on anyway to the Spain match. And somehow we managed to beat the host nation that night. Just an unbelievable night. Just great memories. I can remember all our fans. That was our 12th man in those days. Still are, really.
Yeah.
But just incredible night, incredible time. Yeah. And of course, we're the 10 men. I think the last half hour of the match, Mal Donaghy got sent off.
Yeah.
But somehow managed to come out on top anyway. So just great memory. Yeah.
The bigger game days, are they
Right, just going back talking about George.
Yes, sorry.
I mean, unfortunately for me, that's my biggest regret for him, that he didn't make any of the World Cup teams. You know, I think Billy Bingham did look at him to take him into the '82 squad, but he didn't think he was going to be fit enough at that time to do it. You know, so it was such a pity. A world-class player and him never played in the World Cup finals.
Yeah. And just on that, if you don't mind to indulge us, and Tom Fortune asks this from Wicklow, what's your best football memory of George Best?
Just more or less every game he played in. You know, the great thing about George is he was not only an unbelievable player, but you couldn't kick him out of the game. And I mean, I can imagine playing the great Scottish team. Celtic had just won the European Cup, that team, 2 or 3 players in the Scottish team. And they came to play at Windsor Park in Belfast. And Bestie ran riot that day. They couldn't mark him. He didn't score the goal. I think Dave Fleming scored the goal. But we finished up beating them 1-0. And there was players with massive reputations on the Scottish team wouldn't go near him because he was just walking past them as if they weren't there. So that was one of the early years. And then even towards the end, whenever George had gone to Fulham, the press were questioning whether he was good enough to come back and play at international level. And we got drawn against the great Dutch team, Neeskens, Rep, Van de Kerkhoff, Cruyff, all that team, and went out to Rotterdam. And they took Neeskens back to do a man-for-man marking job. And George must have nutmegged him 4 or 5 times in the match. Neeskens is trying to kick him, and George has got above one of Neeskens' tackles, come down on top of Neeskens, and Neeskens is on the floor roaring, and George takes his tie-up off and says to Neeskens, "Here, tie them together." Never forget him for that night. And we finished up drawn with that Dutch team, that great Dutch team, 2 each that night in Rotterdam. And that was the great Dutch team that went on to play Argentina in the final of the World Cup the next year.
Yeah.
So George absolutely ran riot that night. Brilliant. Yeah.
It is.
And the big Cruyff there as well. Yeah. So that was some of the memories. But
it is a shame.
You couldn't kick him out of it. Anybody kicking him, he would come back to me and say, "Pat, when you get it, give it to me." And I would roll it to him outside the box, and he would just run at whoever was kicking him and walk past them as if they weren't there. You know, if you want to kick me, I'll show you. That was his attitude.
I'll make a fool of you. Can I ask you on the subject of football legends? That you're in a unique league of 1986, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. You lined out for the rest of the world, the only Irishman that day to line out for the rest of the world. And Maradona was the captain.
He was the rest, or I was rest of the world. He was the Americas.
He was the Americas.
And I hadn't played against him, you know, up onto that match. Like, I only actually played the first half, but you can imagine whenever that squad was announced to be in that rest of the world team, and the famous Franz Beckenbauer, he was our manager, and there was two or three Russian players. The other goalkeeper, he was Russian. So I'm thinking in the first place, am I going to get a game before he announced the team? So then whenever Franz Beckenbauer announced the team, I'm the goalkeeper starting. And then the next thing he announced, and captain for the day will be Pat Jennings. So I actually captained the rest of the world team, which was, you can imagine what a thrill that was.
Oh, superb.
Unbelievable, you know. And in fact, anybody that wanted to get that match up, Frank, you can get it up if you just put the rest of the world v the Americas 1986. You can actually log in and you'll see the whole match. Brilliant. Maradona that night, unbelievable. I got off at half time. The Russian goalkeeper come on. Desailly come on the second half. He had a lot of saves to make. We were winning 2-0 at half time. And they got it back to 2 each the second half. And then it went to penalties, sudden death penalties. And Maradona scored the winning penalty. So the Americans beat us, but just unbelievable memories again. Yeah.
Yeah. And you left the pitch with a clean sheet, I hasten to add.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. And that was probably close to retirement, highlights-wise. Was that the start of the...
Well, that was me, because somehow, unbelievably, we had qualified for the 86 World Cup. I had finished at Arsenal in 85.
Yeah.
And then I'm home in Ireland as usual, finished. And I get a call from Peter Shreves, the Tottenham manager. And he said, Pat, can you help us out? We've only got one fit goalkeeper. Unfortunately, great Ray Clemens, who just unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. What a guy.
We've only one fit goalkeeper, Ray. Can you please help us out? So I said, Peter, I'm finished. I haven't kicked the ball 7-8 weeks now. I'm home in Ireland, finished. He said, what about your international matches? So I had never thought of them, but funny, Larry McMenemy, he had gone to Sunderland, and he rang me up and asked him, would I go to Sunderland with him for a couple of years? So I thought, well, you know, Arsenal, Tottenham, London, thanks, but no thanks, you know, with respect to Sunderland. Like. So, but meanwhile, he had rang Billy Bingham, and Billy Bingham had said, if Pat's playing in any team, I'll pick him for the qualifying matches. Like, I played for Arsenal right up to the end of that season. Like, so, I mean, I never dreamt at that stage that we're going to ever qualify. But I said to Peter Shreves, Peter, let me think about it. This was a Sunday night in Ireland, in Newry. I said, let me think about it. I'm back in London on Friday. I'll give you a ring when I get back. He said, Pat, we've got a reserve game against Chelsea on Tuesday. I need you to play. He said, I'm booking you on a flight in the morning. So basically that was it. I went back the next morning, played against Chelsea on the Tuesday and kept a clean sheet. And that was me back again. And I literally played all year in Tottenham reserves. I had one Super Cup match against Liverpool. That was the only first team game I played. But I kept playing in the qualifying matches. We had 2 qualifying games against Turkey. 0-0s. We played against the French team, Platini's great team in France. Kept a clean sheet as a friendly. Then we had a friendly against Spain. In Spain, Malcolm Rowley, our fantastic sports writer in Belfast Telegraph, said it was the greatest goalkeeping display he'd seen of any of the Irish goalkeepers. So that was a clean sheet that night. That took us on to the Romania match, who were in our group. We went out to Romania, beat them 1-0. And now we've got to go to Wembley, the last match in our qualifying group, to get a point to qualify for Mexico. And somehow we went to Wembley on the night, kept a clean sheet against England. And now I'm off to Mexico for the World Cup. So I had 6 clean sheets playing from Tottenham reserves. Not only me, that wasn't about me, it was about the team as well. Brilliant. But that was how stupid it was. I never had 6 clean sheets whenever I was 30, never mind 40. But that's what. And then, I mean, to finish up in Mexico, playing against the great Brazil on my 41st birthday. was just incredible. What a way to finish a career. You know?
Yeah.
I was still fit. I could have played on. I played with Pele also. I was around. I played in Japan with them, and another big match in America with Pele also. So I could have probably still played on, no problem. Don't know about training every day.
Yeah. A relaxed attitude. And can I ask you, just because there's a couple of men have asked, sorry, not least of all, where is he now? Philip Gargan from Dunboyne Menshed, and another gentleman from Ross Trevor Menshed. The whole area of around retirement, around finishing up, but I know you kept your hand in coaching. Was mental health ever discussed in those days amongst you, amongst the players, in the dressing room, outside of the dressing room? Was that ever a subject, or?
No, not to be honest, not with me. It was never a problem, you know. I never thought too much about it. Like.
Yeah.
Having said that, I mean, if you give a bad goal away, no doubt it hurt, you know. Like somebody, it really hurt. It felt you, and the pressures as well. I mean, I've been football of the year a couple of times. Wherever you went, mostly the home crowd know what you're capable of doing because they've seen you every other week. But now you're going up the country and you're football of the year. So all of a sudden there's more and more pressure on you. So, I mean, yeah, it was that sort of thing was pressure. Yeah. But whenever I finished football, 86, I hadn't anything to do, really. I wasn't involved in football at that stage. And I used to get up in the morning, especially in the winter, and I would pull the curtains back, and if it was raining and I couldn't get out to golf, I used to get back into bed, and I thought, what a waste. After a few weeks, you think, well, you know, I can't carry on doing this. Like. And then, I mean, I'd done that basically. I was still involved in quite a lot of promotional work in that. And then whenever Ozzy Ardelius, whenever he took over as manager in 93, he took over as Spurs manager. And he invited me back then to be goalkeeping coach. So I had, it started one day a week, and then the goalkeeper was saying, Pat, we're enjoying what you're doing with us. Can you not come in a couple of days a week? So it finished up then 3 and 4 days a week. So I'm still working now, as I said earlier, with academy boys at the club after 26, 27 years on the coaching staff.
Fantastic.
But great time. I mean, I enjoy them. I've been ambassador for the Irish FA and McDonald's on the grassroots programme for Northern Ireland for the last 12, 14 years. So, I mean, I'm into Ireland up onto this year, 10 or 12 times a year, just around the country, acknowledging the people that do fantastic work, that run basically the grassroots football up and down the country, acknowledging the great work that those people do. So I've enjoyed that for all those years, you know, great times.
That's fantastic.
I've had, I do the matches as well now at the National Stadium. I've got a Pat Jennings suite in there, something I'm very proud of as well.
I believe so.
What else? I've been involved with Cooperation Ireland for something like, I think, 30, 35 years. Whenever I had a testimonial match, the late, great Derek Dugan, he organised it for me along with Cooperation Ireland way back in 1986. So I've been trying to repay them since for getting involved and doing the game for me. So Derek and myself then got involved promoting the work that Cooperation Ireland do. So we went from basically motorcycles, we would travel with 1,500 cyclists down to Dublin, and then the next day pick up 1,500 cyclists from Dublin back to Belfast. So we've done that a couple of years, and we've done vintage car rallies. We've done swims across from Warrenpoint to Omeath, all into county stuff, you know, brilliant. And then all of a sudden, I got a call one day from Derek, the great late Derek. Derek, Pat, we're doing a little walk. I said, what's the walk? And I just walked with Derek, both of them. Whenever he walked across Ireland, I'd done from Banbridge to Newry with him, like. So I thought, well, I can do that. That was what he had in mind. I said, what's the walk there? He says, we're doing Dublin, Belfast. I said, you are joking. So he says, Pat, just you do the walk and then I'll do the talking. So basically that was what we done. Started in the middle of Dublin on the Monday morning and finished up in the middle of Belfast City Hall on the Saturday. And we had fundraising events more or less every night on route from Dublin to Belfast for Cooperation Ireland. And I've had 27th year this year. Unfortunately, had to postpone it. It's at the world famous Royal County Down golf course. And we have 10 or 12 teams come in from England here every year to play in it. But unfortunately, as I said, my 27th year had to be cancelled this year. So sad, but hopefully we'll get back to some sort of normality next year.
If I can indulge you now and to our listeners, move off the subject of football, because there's something else I want to talk about, and it's a question of marrying some of your many loves. Yeah, you mentioned your love of golf, but Lawrence Powell writes into me. I believe you know Larry Powell, and he said,
Larry, my mate.
Yeah, he said, Pat, you've long had a great love for Irish music, and you've had friendships, many great musicians along the way. I was telling you before the show, we heard Red Hurley sing for us last week, and he's in great fettle and singing well. And you've known so many musicians. I know Eleanor was involved in show bands and entertainment, but music's been a great love for you over your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Red talking about the 25th year at Cooperation Ireland Golf Day. Red Hurley came up and sang that night. Phil Coulter as well. Tommy Sands. I mean, great friends. You know, I mean, over the years, it's all been music. Probably been married well, and that helped. But some of the nights we had over the years, just incredible. Like, some of the best nights of my life have been with some of the greats. Luke Kelly. I mean, Luke, he used to come up right through the Troubles. He would have come up to Northern Ireland. We'd have picked him up at the border and down to Warren Point to play golf. Or we would have gone down to Dublin. And the golf was an excuse. We'd play 9 holes and then it was off into the clubhouse. And all from an empty clubhouse, all of a sudden, the place would be absolutely packed. I can remember one starting in Warren Point, and 10:30 we left the golf club and finished up in the Crown Hotel in the Point with Luke, and there was only about 14 or 15 of us finished up in the Crown Hotel, but we came out the next morning at 20 to 8 in the morning. Luke sang all night, just one of the greatest nights of my life, listening to the great Luke. And he loved football, but we loved him more as much as he loved us. And I mean, even the night my testimonial at Tottenham, one of the commissioners come in, he says that there's a lad looking for you at the gate. He says he knows you. So of course I'm gone out. I think the gate man told him, yeah, there's 30,000 knows him here as well. So going out anyway, and I suppose Luke standing with a passport in the top pocket and the banjo. So we finished up back in my house that night. Luke sang all night. A few of the players came back, and Luke stayed with us for 3 days. I mean, they were just unbelievable memories, great times. And I mean, going Paddy Riley, the great Paddy Riley.
Yeah.
Paddy used to come over after our cup final days, and he would entertain all the players, especially all the Irish lads, you can imagine. After our dinners with the cup finals on the Saturday night, Paddy would have come in then and spent the night with us. Great nights, you know. And I mean, the nights we've had with Paddy up and down round Dublin, just great memories as well. What a singer, you know. Yeah. But then, I mean, going in for the golf days, you know, they were with Finbar Fury and Red Hurley, Dickie Rock, and it was just the great late Joe Dolan. Yeah. They were always the cabaret after the golf days. So just so many great nights, just incredible. brilliant.
Absolutely.
Great man. Yeah.
Lawrence tells a certain story about giving Luke Kelly a 10-foot putt for a birdie. He said,
You had no ball getting Luke to stay anyway. He loved the pen and loved to sing, you know. And I mean, if he was singing for 3 or 4 people, you would have thought he was at the Albert Hall. He was that good. Yeah.
Well, Pat, I can't thank you enough. It's been an absolute magic time, and thank you so much for your time, and thank you on behalf of all the men shedders, friends and families listening this afternoon. I wish you the very best of luck tomorrow. I know you're heading down to White Hart Lane to play Liverpool, and
I'm just looking here at tell you, Frank, as an ambassador, I've been ambassador for the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service as well last year, which was brilliant as well. People my age forgetting to renew their smoke alarms and fire alarms and that. So it was just a great experience to go along there for a couple of days, spend with the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service, see the kind of work that they do. You know, brilliant. And brilliant. I also got an invite last year from to become an ambassador for the Unite Union Champions Cup, where they put up a lot of money for the winners of the Northern Ireland League to play the winners of the Southern League. So it was Linfield and Dundalk. So and with a couple of great nights supporting and presenting the cup for those matches. Great, more great memories, you know. So
fantastic,
great time. Yeah, I love my trips to work. I love it. It's still home away from home for me.
Well, as long as you know, there's a welcome in every man's shed, up and down across the whole island. If you just drop in, you don't have to. They'll know you, and there's a welcome on the mat for you. And thank you again so much for your time. It's very much appreciated.
No problem, Frank. And just kind of wish everybody keep safe, stay safe. Hopefully we'll get through these terrible times, and wish everybody a happy Christmas and all the best for the new year.
Absolutely. And Merry Christmas to you too, Pat. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Frank. No problem.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.